Hello, everyone. This is Eric Keith, editor-in-chief of the Quintessential Gentleman, and today we are talking to Mr. Jordan E. Cooper. What's going on, my brother? How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Doing amazing, doing amazing. I'm not gonna lie to you. I saw Oh Happy Day last week, and from the beginning, I knew it was gonna be good because it was the vocals, it was the sound. It just I said, all right, good. And then by the end of it, leaving out, I'm emotional, I'm reminiscent. It got me, it's thought provoking. I was on it. So I first and foremost want to say congratulations, and that was amazing.
Thank you so much. Thank
Of
you. Let
course.
me
So
sing another.
um, so I want to first ask you, where did this come from? Where was the spark that made you start say, okay, I want to write this play?
Yeah, so it really came from so many things. Just growing up black and queer in the South and in the church. And really, being told your whole life that you're going to hell or God hates you or, all that stuff. And the idea of one, I was interested in two things. One of the idea of a flood coming and washing everything away, washing away the old and making room for new to grow. And then I was also interested in what if the person who is always shunned and pushed away from Christianity or the church or whatever is actually the one in direct connection with God. And that kind of just set off a spark of what would happen if the black sheep of a family comes back home after years of being kicked out and letting the family know that they're gonna die if they don't listen to them. Yeah.
Man, you when you say black sheep, even sometimes the cussing and with God, I was like, oh gosh, oh I was feeling, I was so you said that these characters have been with you for some time. Can you speak a little bit about that?
Yeah, it's taken me 7 years to write this play. Mainly because, you know, I felt like I had to mature into what the play was trying to say. I always say I never really write plays to teach people anything or to like push out a message or some kind of. It's usually because there's something that I have to work through within myself, and sometimes writing a play is the only way I can articulate a big emotion inside of me. And this was a play that really was articulating a big emotion, something that I needed to learn for myself, which was that happiness was a choice, and the idea that like you can only expect as much grace as you give, and all the things that come with that, that there's not really a villain in any story. Everybody has their own pain, everybody has their own cycle that they have to break out of, that they've learned, right? And kind of giving that grace, especially when we think about our parents, right? A lot of times, we blame our parents for things that they've done, but when we look at it, it's like, dang, I can't imagine having a kid at that age, one, whatever age that they were, then they had a kid.
Absolutely.
And then also, sometimes I know I had to learn for myself that like, oh, your parents are like people. They're not like their sole purpose wasn't to be the parent in your story. They had their own lives and they had their own lessons and they had their own problems and things that they had to deal with. And so once I learned to like look at them through a human lens and not like parents, I learned to have as much grace for them as I have for myself, and that I hope that my kids have for me one day. Yeah.
No, that's so true. I'm like, oh, you are an adult. Oh, you do have
Yeah. Right. And they
yeah,
were
this
they was having kids at like 19, 20, 21. I'm like, I can't imagine. I'm like, I'm hungry and you looking at me talking about you hungry? No.
you coming home from work. All I want to do is nap. And you talking about you
Right.
gotta see kids do homework? No, 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 no.
No.
I agree. I agree. So it took you 7 years to make this play. Doesn't mean you had to put it out now. It could be something you put together and
Yeah.
kind of did it for whenever you wanted to do it, but you chose to work on it and have it out now. Why is now the perfect time?
That's a great question. I think now was the time because I was ready and it was ready. I think I never really, was strategic about, oh, I'm going to put it out this time or that time or that time. It was kind of like, oh no, the play said it's ready, so now let me let the play do the thing. Um, And I always say plays are never finished. They're just abandoned. At some point, you just gotta let it go and be like, as long as it's saying everything that it needed to say, because you could always keep, I obsess over things. So I'm like, but it felt like now was the time. And what's crazy is that the play was ready, but it also feels like the world was ready in a strange way. Like it feels like now we're living in a time where people are constantly being dehumanized and seen as less than, right? And treated any kind of way. But it's like, no, you're human. You're a human being, and we have to treat each other like human beings. And so I think that what the play is trying to do too is teach me, well, as I was writing it, was that, God is not just some being in the sky. God is in the human being that you interact with on a daily basis. God is in the human being that you see when you look in the mirror. God is in those interactions, right? And the minute that you start to recognize God in other people and God in the things around you, that's when you really start to have a true connection with the divine.
No, that's true. And I'm gonna say also add to this is a perfect time because the Lord, please let the water come. We need a fresh, we need a fresh start. I don't know what's happening now, Jesus, but that was my take also. I'm like, oh, this is the right time because we're what we living in right now is a little wild.
Ain't it crazy?
So, yeah, it was very interesting. Just the timing, I thought it was amazing. But I want to know also talking about your character Keyshawn. You
Yeah.
spoke about being a black sheep. And I want to know personally, is that you felt like you are the black sheep of your family, or was it just, kind of different attributes or different characteristics or different things, or kind of what was specifically the character to you?
Yeah, no, I think there's definitely, I have some of my DNA in Keyshawn, but we're completely different people. But I do think that, I wasn't the black sheep, but I was always the weird one just because I was like into the arts and, I was, queer. So it was like I was different. But I was never like pushed aside or shunned by my family in that way. But I do think that, what I can relate to Keyshawn on is just the idea of, feeling like an alien for most of your life and feeling like nobody really understands you or gets you or sees you. Um, and Keyshawn is really a testament to like what happens when you don't others don't see you, so therefore you don't learn how to see yourself. Because I think he's a character who really just it he finds his worth in material things. So like you'll see him wearing Louis Vuitton, you'll see him wearing Gucci, you'll see him wearing Prada, you'll see him wearing all because to him that is I'm going to show you that I am worth something. But when I look in the mirror and all these labels are gone, I don't really know what my worth is. Yeah.
No, that's true. No. And it's interesting you speak about kind of the plays about choices and how people essentially, have the choice, to be happy. But then there's also the conversation of not having a choice to be who you are. As we also people talk about the
Right.
member of the LGBTQ position. Oh, I choose. You think people want to choose to live
Right.
out this type of experience. So it's so interesting that choices is a conversation around the play.
Yeah, yeah, because it's the idea that like, there are things that we can choose and there are things that we can't. And sometimes you have to make a choice about the things that you can't choose. You know, and that is acceptance. That is loving oneself and loving your other. Um, because the reality is that queerness to me is just a balance. It's just a part of the nature balance of things. Like it doesn't make sense for every like even when you think about like even when you think about animals, like everything is balanced in a way. And I think we as human beings have just learned to just make something just more complicated than it actually is. Like even when you think about, transness and you think about, gender nonconforming, you think about like all these things are like when you actually think about the fact that in reality we are nothing but spirits, like all these things, all these physical bodies and these, all of this is an illusion. These are all rented, borrowed things. So the minute that we start to realize that we are all just spiritual beings having a physical experience, then you start to understand the complexity around identity because it's people trying to make sense of themselves within this construct that we've created, when it's like actually our existence is so much bigger than this construct that we've created, you know?
Yeah, and the construct is only created based off of a majority of people saying this is what it
Exactly.
is. You know?
Right.
Um,
Right.
Another piece as well that I love and would love for you to talk about is safe space. In the play, you spoke about when you met, and I forgot the young lady's name.
Diamond.
Diamond, yes.
Yeah,
When you
yeah,
met
yeah.
her, you were like, that's the first time that I actually like felt, someone cared for me or wanted to make sure I was okay and things like that. Talk to
Mhm.
me a little bit about safe spaces and why specifically made it make sense for that to be there.
Yeah, because I think a lot of times the beginning of safe space is community. You know, before you find it in yourself, a lot of times you find it in community. You find it in people saying, "No, I see you and I see your heart, and I want you to be a part of this. You know, I want you to come over here. I want to feed. I want to pour into you. I want to feed you. I want to love you." And for Keyshawn, it was the character of Diamond, who's a trans woman, a black trans woman in Mississippi, and she saw him and she accepted him and she pulled him in when the world was ready to throw him away. And I think a lot of times that's why even things forms like the quintessential gentleman is important because it is a form of community, right? We're recognizing ourselves and lifting each other up and pulling each other in a really beautiful way. And I think it's so necessary in order for us to move forward, in order for us to, for especially younger generations to find themselves and see themselves. It's important for us to create that community so that people know they have a door to knock on when they're ready for it. Yeah.
That. So have to talk about the music. There was so many moments, man. It's like I said, from the beginning, and then not giving away a lot, but when your sister came, I said, "Whoa, was not expecting that." Um, so gospel not is in this play, not
Yeah.
just the sound, but the spirit. But I do
Yeah.
want to know what was it like writing these songs? I know you worked with, want to make sure I get it right. Lawrence helped wrote the original songs for it, and then you had people Tamika Lawrence, Tiffany Mann, Keith Randolph Smith. I mean, how did the music part come together?
Yeah, no, so when I was writing the play, I always knew that it had musical moments because sometimes I think that there are things that only music can carry that text can't. And I think music is like a universal language, even in the spiritual realm. So the idea that like whenever we're in the spiritual, music is what takes over. It's like another form of language. And so I connected with the gospel icon that is Donald Lawrence, you know, the best is yet to come and encourage yourself and, you know, the blessing of Abraham and just hit after hit after hit after hit. Um, and, you know, I grew up listening to his music. Even in the darkest moments of my life, like his music would be the thing that will pull me out of, you know, some dark moments when I was a teenager, you know, struggling with, you know, do I want to be on this earth? Do I not want to be on this earth? And so the idea that like I could build a story with him and he could create original music around the text that I've created is insane. He would like take a scene and I would give him a scene and he would like break down the scene and be like, "What do you want this to sound like?" And I'd be like, "I want it to sound like this, that." And he would just take all my craziness and then look at the text and break it down and come back with the most perfect song. And they're songs that like sounds like they've existed for the past 30 years. You know what I mean? They're just so freaking beautiful. And they sound amazing. And these singers are Tiffany Mann, Shalea, and Latrice Pace and Tamika. Just it's craziness. It's craziness. It's craziness.
Amazing. I want to talk a little bit about watching the clock here. I want to talk a little bit about the Black community in theater. I'm finding, and I know I'm pretty sure I'm gonna say I'm part to blame because I keep pushing out and talking to people. I love this stuff. I want us to be in these spaces
Yes.
And I'm starting to see us becoming more in these spaces. But again, is that conversation now because there are people like you who are bringing our stories to these platforms and specifically to Broadway and in New York. Kind of what's your thoughts on kind of our community and the theater experience, kind of where we are now?
Yeah, I think that, we're moving somewhere. We're moving forward a little bit. I think the problem with theater is really just like one, the material a lot of times, but then also getting the word out, because there's so many artists who are doing such great work and people just don't know about it. And I always say, the same way the government knows where to put a liquor store in a black neighborhood, we need to know where to put a billboard in a black neighborhood for a play and to let people know that there is work happening here that is for them. And I think that, we're getting somewhere. We're moving each year feels like we take two steps forward and one step back. And I think that we're finding our way, and I think it still has a long way to go. But I'm grateful for the strides that we're making. I'm grateful that, I can be a part of that lineage of creating work that, lets us know that, hey, this is for us. This is not just some like, because sometimes it's even when it is us, it's not us. You know what I mean? Like it's like it could look like us, but that don't mean it tastes like us. When you get there, you taste the food, it ain't got no seasoning on it, but it look like it's supposed to taste good. You know what I mean? And it's like, nah, I want to be, I want when you come into my restaurant, I need to feel like your granny's backroom kitchen. I need to feel like I need some burnt marks on the green pot, where the greens be cooked at. I need the stove to smell like it's a gas stove. Like you just gotta feel like home. It's gotta feel like home.
Amazing. And talking about home, you returned to the public theater.
Yeah.
How does that feel? And being in that space, what does that moment represent to you?
It's dope. I was in college last time I did a show here. Now I'm 30. And so it's
That's not just also that's not old.
you said also that's not old.
Hold on, that's not
It's
old. As
not.
someone that's older than 30, it's not old. But
It's
go
not.
ahead.
It's not actually, I actually really enjoy it because I feel like I'm the level of grown now where like my boundaries are clearer. I know what I want, I know what I don't want. I'm not gonna sugarcoat. I'm not going, you know what I mean? I'm not gonna people please.
People pleaser.
No, you ain't
Some
got
days
time
it's
for it no
fun.
more. We ain't got time for that. We ain't got time for that.
But
So I'm really grateful, really, really grateful for that. But no, it feels like I'm coming to this like as a man. And I feel like at that point in time I was still learning myself and learning, you know what I mean? And now I know exactly who I am and I'm able to produce work that still challenges me to grow in new ways.
no, I love that. And my
Yeah.
last question for you is, what do you want audience to receive after watching Oh Happy Day?
I hope that they realize that they still have time to reset. If you feel like you're one of those people who like you didn't know that happiness was available to you in that way, you thought that it was a fair weather friend, that it was something that could only come when, life is good or when things are good. I hope that somebody walks out realizing that now actually it's not just about happiness is not just about a good time. It's not just about a smile and a laugh, and it's about knowing that no matter what the world is doing, that I am okay because I say that I'm okay. You know, and it's okay not to be okay with that because even when you're aware that you're not okay and you have a hold of your happiness, there is a level of control because you know that you're not flailing in the wind. You know that you're allowing yourself to not be okay and know that I'm going to be okay, but I'm not okay in this moment. It's a powerful tool. It's a really powerful tool. And I hope that, people are open to that and receiving whatever that means, or receiving the power that is already within them rather.
Love that. Amazing. Well, thank you so much for having this conversation with me. Please, everyone, if you live in New York or you traveling to New York, make sure you go check out Oh Happy Day at the
Yes.
theater. It's in a phenomenal play, man. Phenomenal. So
Thank you.
congratulations.
Thank you.